So just a warning, you can probably hear my kids in the background of this video. I promise they are okay, they're happy, they're just quite loud. There's 4 of them, 3 of them are here today. So yeah, just know that you can probably hear them in the background of this video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just got out of a bit of a burnout. That's why you haven't seen me on here very much lately. And I'm finally feeling like I'm getting a little bit more like mental capacity back to be able to start filming again. So today's video is going to be 10 female presenting autistic traits that I deal with on a daily basis or on a regular basis. As I mentioned, I just got out of a burnout. I've been hosting birthday parties the past couple months. 3 of my kids have birthday parties or birthdays in February, March, and April. So this coming weekend, I just had my last daughter's birthday party, and then now this next weekend I'm having another one. So this time of year can be a lot, especially socially, hosting people and the preparation and executive functioning and planning that it takes to do that. It's just a lot, but I feel okay to film this video today, and I really want to get it out there for you guys. So here we go. So keep in mind that autism is a spectrum. You can be autistic and not have any of these traits. You can be allistic or neurotypical and have some of these traits. These traits can present themselves in men as well. These are just kind of some common traits that I specifically deal with on a daily or regular basis. These are human traits. So if you're autistic, you might have experienced telling a non-autistic person some of the things that you experience and them saying, oh yeah, I go through that too. Yeah, because we're both humans, you know, but in the autism world, it's just a little bit more to one extreme or the other, basically. So number 1 is masking. Masking is a tool that we can use to help us fit into the neurotypical world, and it can be really, really useful in the short term. So what I mean by that is that it can help us by gaining a friend, by blending in a social environment, and to appear more normal or neurotypical in certain situations. However, this is extremely exhausting for us, and this practice is not sustainable. It's not something that we can keep up and that we can do, you know, day after day. So how we do this is we tend to sort of create these rules and guidelines of how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to say, how we're supposed to look, the eye contact that we're supposed to give, you know, like the amount of eye contact, and the way that we're supposed to reciprocate conversations, anything like that, through intense observations. So funny quick story about how I was learning to mask when I was kind of transitioning from, well, I guess I was still in grammar school when I did this. So I used to ride the bus home every day, and I would turn around in my seat and put my hands up on the back of the seat and just stare with these wide, intense eyes at the high schoolers. And this is something called forced eye contact. And it was just me observing how they acted and how they talked and how they reacted to each other and conversated. And this is something that we typically seem to do with people that are older than us. That's something that I typically do. To sort of see what is coming next in my next phase of life and how I'm supposed to act and plan, and I can script and rehearse everything out beforehand. I don't do this as much anymore. I definitely will tend to sort of copy or assimilate with my current friends at the time, but as a child, I would very intensely observe my older peers to see how I was supposed to act in the future. And speaking of this masking technique being not a sustainable practice for us, what can happen is this can lead to burnouts and meltdowns. So that brings me to number 2 on my list, meltdowns and burnouts. So a meltdown is something that I can experience on a daily basis. It's varying degrees, you know, it can be mild or severe. Sometimes I go days without having a meltdown. Sometimes it's just a couple times a week. It's just generally when I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed or extremely overstimulated, or if my plans get changed last minute, my routines get messed up, anything that's particularly upsetting and rage-inducing for me can trigger a meltdown. And those are more common than like shutdowns or burnouts. So a meltdown, there's a huge difference between a meltdown and like a temper tantrum in children, but that's kind of like the closest thing that I can explain as of right now of how it feels. It just feels like my world is crumbling down, and it's this huge either explosion of anger and rage and upset, an explosion of emotions, or me just completely going nonverbal and like shutting everyone out. The shutting everyone out and, you know, kind of just getting away from everything is more of how I experience a shutdown, which is just my functioning just goes below zero. So of course I am a mother and I cannot just completely shut down. But I'm learning better coping strategies to help lessen the blow and shorten these types of things. And then burnout. I'm actually getting out of a burnout right now. A burnout is just when you have been doing too much for too long. Burnouts typically come for me when I've been too social, when I've been masking too much, when I've been overcommitting myself to other people, and being overly productive. So because I have ADHD as well, I have uneven productivity. I'll go through these huge waves of just cleaning everything in my house, deep cleaning things, getting completely on top of laundry, homeschooling to the best of my abilities, you know, just doing it all. And then I just completely crash. So because of the recent birthday parties and other social events that I've been going to, I just got out of a burnout. And this is just like I'm unable to really do the things that I need to do on a daily basis. The bare minimum of like feeding myself and my children and doing school with them and, you know, trying to keep the house in like an okay situation is just, that's all I can do. Okay, now number 3 is, this is also something that I can struggle with on a daily basis, or just, you know, not struggle with, but it's a trait of mine. I have a very strong sense of justice, and I'm a very black and white thinker. I kind of grouped those two things together. So if someone is wrong about something, and I know that they're wrong about something, it's really, really hard for me to let it go. If I know the answer to a solution, I want to solve it immediately. So if someone is wrong about something, I just really want them to know that they're wrong. Not to be mean or put them down. It's just I don't like false information being told. And likewise, I like to know if I'm saying something wrong, because I like to be precise, I like to be accurate, and I like facts. So that kind of flows, in my mind, it kind of flows into being a black and white thinker. I don't like the gray area. If there is some sort of question to be had about anything, I want a definite answer, a yes or a no. So going back to the strong sense of justice, I was like this in school too. So if someone was being bullied, even though I was badly bullied and it would probably make the situation worse, I did my best to stand up for the person being bullied and like tell off the bully. Another thing that happened in school was one time there was a boy that liked to pick on me a lot. He bullied me verbally and he also hurt me physically. He was a family friend. Their family was friends with my family. And one time he was bullying me in class, and then the next day he came to school with a broken arm. Now, someone had written on his birthday card the word karma, just the word karma on his birthday card. It was not me. I'm a very honest person. I did not write that. He did burn a lot of bridges with a lot of people, so he did have a lot of enemies at the time. But I wasn't the one that wrote it. So the teacher had each kid like get out, it was a small class that we were in, go out of class and write the word karma on a piece of paper so that they could compare the handwriting. My handwriting was the one that looked closest to it. I'm assuming that the person who actually wrote it like changed their handwriting because they knew that they were onto them. But I got blamed for it, and I have never forgotten it. I want to right that wrong still to this day, and I just exploded. I was so mad, and they were like, you know, you're having this reaction because you're guilty and it's normal. Nope, it was not me, and those types of things I hold on to. Number 4 is sensory issues. So I am a highly sensitive person. I'm very hypersensitive and hyper aware of my surroundings when it comes to hearing, physical touch, sight, smell. I'm really just sensitive like in every way. So let's just start with hearing. I typically will wear noise canceling headphones when I'm in the house because I have, oop, that was my phone. Because I have 4 kids and animals and, you know, if the TV is going or something like that, basically I have a hard time with volume. Things are typically too loud for me. I have a hard time with like abrupt sounds, like quick loud sounds. I have a really, like I'm really easily startled. One kind of interesting thing that goes with this is when I'm putting dishes away, I will wear my noise canceling headphones because the sound of like the plates and stuff clinging together or on my granite countertop, like it's just like sends chills down my spine and I can't handle it. Another sound that I really, really don't like that might seem kind of interesting to you guys is the sound of cotton balls or Q-tips. One of my friends described it. She knew what I was talking about and she's like, yes, there's like a dry squeak that it makes. That's exactly it. It's a dry squeaking sound and it hurts my teeth and it hurts my fingernails and my bones. I can't explain it. I hate it. People ask me, well, how do you clean your ears out if you don't use Q-tips? I just use like my pinky and a wet washcloth when I'm in the shower. I cannot stick a Q-tip in my ear. In fact, I remember having a babysitter when I was really, really young, and she would bathe me and her daughter, I was like a really little girl, and clean out our ears after the bathtub, and I remember screaming because I hated it and it was so painful to me. I don't think that she was like, you know, pushing it in too far or anything. I think the sound was just too much for me. I don't like the texture of certain things. Microfiber makes me want to crawl out of my skin. I cannot be barefoot in my house because every single little crumb on the floor makes me just want to throw up. I typically will kind of walk, I can't explain it, I kind of like curve my foot like this and like avoid the sole of my foot touching the ground if I have to walk like from the couch to go get my slippers if the kids carried them off or something like that. And likewise, I talked about this in my sleep video, I can't handle anything in my bed. Pet hair, my hair, I have to put, my hair's down to my waist. I have to put it up in a bun. Any sort of like sandy, gritty feeling in my sheets, I have to roll my sheets every night before bed. So this also affects me when it comes to my clothes. I like wearing all sorts of different clothes, but I just can't wear them for very often. Like if I go to town and I am wearing like jeans and like a tank top like this and a bra that generally has itchy straps or something like that, as soon as I get home, I have to completely change my outfit into my safe clothes, the clothes that don't have like really harsh seams, that aren't too tight and are softer fabrics. I'm out of breath because I just had to go in there in the other room. Another like sense of touch thing that I cannot stand is sticky. The texture of sticky, oh, it makes me sick. It makes me want to cry. Like I literally, if I got something like honey, I use honey a lot because we drink tea and I like to use it as a sweetener that's not like white processed sugar because that's a happy scream. That's not white processed sugar because we're a neurodivergent household who's very sensitive to sugars. We use honey as our sweetener, but if someone else uses the honey and gets it like on the outside of the jar and it touches me or my clothes or specifically my hair, I want to cry. Like I get so overwhelmed and overstimulated that I genuinely feel like crying. So sticky is just the absolute worst in my opinion. You can go back to my Autism in Girls video where I described my experience being an autistic little girl, and I talk a little bit more about my sensory needs from back then. So I also have an issue with chaotic sounds. So if there's a bunch of sounds happening at the same time, I can't really like filter out what I listen to and what I don't. So most people can kind of zone in. Like if you're having a conversation with someone and you're in a crowded area and there's multiple sounds happening, most people are able to kind of zone in on what they're trying to focus on. but I can't do that. I hear them all like basically at the same volume, if that makes sense. There's so much more sensory stuff, like so much more, but those are just some of them because I don't want to make this video super long. Number 5 is anxiety. So I have anxiety and CPTSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And those are both kind of under the autism umbrella. Like it's quite common for autistic people to have co-occurring conditions. So that's another thing that I can deal with on a daily basis is anxiety. I've dealt with depression and things like that before, but I think that the number one co-occurring condition that I can deal with on a daily basis is anxiety. I don't think I need to say much there. I think that everyone kind of knows about how anxiety can feel, but that I felt necessary to put on the list. Number 6 is inflexibility and rigidity when it comes to my routines and rituals. So I like to stick to a routine as much as possible. In my ADHD and autism video, I talk about how there's a constant battle when you have both ADHD and autism. My autism wants everything to be neat and orderly and happen at the exact time that I want it to happen in. I wish that I just had autism and not ADHD, because my ADHD just comes right into the picture and is like, nope, I can't do that. I have poor executive functioning, I have poor interoception, so I'm just gonna come in here and wreck all your plans. But my rigidity and need for specific things in my routine has caused me to do things like burning bridges with people. This also kind of plays into the black and white thinking or a strong sense of justice, where I have actually just completely cut off and ended friendships at the drop of a hat if something happens that interrupts the way that I live my life, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm a kind-hearted person. I want to be friends with people, but there's certain things that if it happens in a friendship, I have had the tendency to either just completely ghost someone or actually formally break up with them as a friend. I haven't done this in a long time because I've gotten a lot better about who I surround myself with. I've gotten a lot better about advocating for my needs and explaining the way that I function and the way that my brain works. And I became more flexible. But when it comes to things like my daily routine, I can get quite upset if things get messed up or don't go to plan. Number 8 is discomfort with eye contact. So I talked about this a little bit when I was speaking about masking, but eye contact with a person, I just don't know what the social rules are. I don't know if I'm giving too much or too little. When I'm in a zone with my masking and I'm just kind of like in this masking state, I don't really know how to put it. I feel like I'm doing it right, but it's a constant thing that I'm thinking about. Like I will count in my head sometimes and not be listening to what the person's saying because I'm like paying too much attention to how long I've been giving them eye contact. And when you stop and break eye contact, I don't know if you're supposed to look away from them completely or it's just really confusing for me. And if I'm talking, I genuinely like cannot hold my thought if I'm giving too much eye contact because it's too distracting for me. So one time in middle school, an art teacher who I now, looking back in hindsight, believe he could be on the spectrum or neurodiverse in some way, he mentioned to me that I'm having issues with my eyes right now because of this ring light. It's super, super bright. That's another sensory thing of mine is the bright light thing. Where was I? Okay. My art teacher, he said, so I noticed that you have a hard time when we're talking about specifically difficult things, keeping eye contact with me. If I am trying to talk with you, I can notice you looking away a lot or not even looking at me in the eyes at all. He said, this is something that I struggle with as well, and a tip that I can give you is to look right in the center of people's eyes or sort of at the bridge of their nose, and it will appear that you're making eye contact, but you're not actually looking into their eyes. And I've held on to that in my memory for all these years, and I actually still do it sometimes today. Number 8 is not being good at nonverbal communication. So this falls into one of the categories in the DSM-5 for diagnosing autism, which is social communication deficits. I am not very good at picking up on, well, I've kind of learned body language because I can just assign it roles. You know, like I can look it up and see like if someone is folding their arms and leaning back, they're a little bit more reserved and closed off. It's like a protective thing. I can decode that. But I'm not good at understanding people's underlying intentions. If it were up to me, we would all just be completely honest, brutally honest when we have to, and just say exactly what we're thinking and exactly what we mean, and not have to decode the way that we're communicating. Like, I don't understand how specifically females do this. Like, they say one thing, but they mean a completely different thing, and they just know what the other one's thinking. Like, I can't read your mind. I don't understand that at all. So this has actually led people to believe that I'm gullible, and I actually, specifically in high school, was taken advantage of and manipulated a lot. This is gonna get like a little bit heavy. It's gonna be just a quick thing that I'm gonna say, but if there's children in the room, maybe this part isn't for them. So I won't go into details, but in high school, I was actually sexually abused and assaulted multiple times in multiple different scenarios and situations. This is a phenomena called re-victimization. And now that I know that I'm autistic, it just makes so much more sense. And I've done some research, and this is actually a really, really huge issue in the female autism community. Females with autism need to have some support in their relationships, specifically romantic relationships, and they need to be taught tools on how to pick up on, you know, what is a dangerous situation and what's not. So I didn't have those tools because we didn't know I was autistic until I was about 22, and I'm just about to be 25. And this led to a lot of trauma because I was too trusting and I was a very easy target for predators. Okay, so on to the next thing. Number 9 is special interests. So, people on the autism spectrum have special interests. A stereotypical thing that a lot of people know about is trains, specifically boys with trains or with dinosaurs or cars. Those are kind of some more common special interests, but there's tons of special interests out there. So I made a little list of some of mine. I feel like I have way more of these, and my ADHD gives me the tendency to like tap into certain special interests and hyper-focus on them for a little bit of time intensely and then move on to the next thing. But a couple things that have been my special interests, I don't know if you could hear that, but that was thunder. We had a thunderstorm last night too. Some things that have been my special interests lifelong are animals, nature, the science of nature and the natural world, and Harry Potter. Now, in my adult life, I also have a special interest for pregnancy and birth. I know a lot about pregnancy and birth. I could probably be a doula if I wanted to. It's just not right for the phase of life that I'm in right now. I'm too busy with all my little ones. Another huge one is autism and disorders, mental disorders, psychology. This is a super common special interest because I feel like since we have a difficulty understanding people and a difficulty connecting with people and understanding our emotions and their emotions and nonverbal communication, if we can spot certain things in people and, you know, look in the DSM-5 or something like that, we can decode like the person. Does that make sense? I don't really know how to explain it, but I think it's a better way for us to understand humans. I also love child psychology, early child psychology, and animal husbandry and farming, as well as gardening. Now, everyone has things that they're interested in, right? Everyone has hobbies, but a special interest is a little bit more intense. So if you also suffer from something called time blindness, which is common in people with ADHD, and you are going to indulge in your special interests, this happens with just autistic people as well, autistic people that don't have ADHD, and you want to just sit down and read about or watch videos about or research your special interest or indulge in one of your interests like art, anything like that. Once you get started, it's really hard to stop. It's really hard to pull yourself out of that. So another thing that we can do, which leads me to number 10, I hope this is 10 by the way, I really have not been like counting. I might be wrong on the numbers. I think it's 10, is info dumping. So my poor husband and mother, I do this to them constantly. Info dumping is where an autistic person will go on a monologue and just dump all of this intensive research information, all of this data and statistics and facts about their special interests. And if allowed, we can talk for hours about it. Hours. So one time, one of my special interests was bugs and butterflies, insects and butterflies, sorry. And I was telling my husband some facts about bumblebees. And we were in the shower and it was probably like 15 minutes that I had been talking. And he has to remind me, he'll look at me and he'll say, honey, I love you so much. I appreciate that you love bumblebees, but how about just a few more facts about them and then we'll move on to the next subject. So yeah, info dumping is something that we can do. Sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's really overbearing because we have a hard time knowing if people really want to know like 500 facts about the history of goat husbandry. So our special interest can be something that people are commonly interested in, like Star Wars or building Legos or things like that, or they can be like completely obscure. Okay, so that I believe is it. I hope that was 10 things that I deal with on a daily, if not very regular basis when it comes to my autistic symptoms or traits. So I think I am out of this brain fog. I'm coming out of it. I'm trying not to go into a phase of hyper production and just ease myself back into the real world to hopefully avoid going right into another burnout. So my videos should be more consistent again. As always, thank you so much for coming and watching my video. If you like these videos and you want to stick around and see how my channel grows, how I get better at filming and editing, and what else I have to say about autism and neurodiversity, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment and like this video. Thank you so much. Bye.